Dharma Swakhyata, Reflections on the Nature of Dharma, Our Nature, Part 3. Sanyam. Since in finite time we have possessed a tremendously fickle nature, our mind always wandering, our body unable to remain still, and our speech unable to remain silent. This deters us from attaining the tranquility which is the foremost requirement to experience one's soul. To still the soul, one must practice Sanyam. Sanyam refers to self discipline. Disciplining the mind, body, and speech is the doorway to moksha. In fact, the state of the soul, seconds before it attains moksha, is called Saileshkaran, or becoming as still as the mountain. The word Sanyam is also synonymous with the word Diksha. Sanyam or Diksha is nothing but a code of conduct laid out by Sri Tirthankar Paramatma, which allows aspirants of moksha to slowly but surely steady their mind, body, and speech. Even in the material world, it is said, self discipline is the key to reaching your goals. With self discipline, almost anything is possible. Self discipline means self control, which is a sign of inner strength. Self discipline gives us a power to stick to our decisions and follow them through without changing our mind, and is therefore one of the most important requirements for achieving any goal. Self discipline enables us to be perseverant and helps us overcome addictions, procrastinations, and laziness. A famous philosopher once said, self discipline is self love. People with high degrees of self discipline spend less time debating whether to indulge in behaviors that are detrimental to their well being and are able to make positive decisions more easily. Such people with high degree of self-discipline don't let impulses or feelings dictate their choices. Instead, they make level-headed decisions. As a result, such people tend to feel more satisfied with their lives. Willpower is what separates us from animals. It's the capacity to restrain our impulses, resist temptation, do what's right and good for our souls in the long run instead of giving in to what we want to do right now. Sanyam, self discipline, is the set point for spiritual growth. Famous self help author Stephen Covey states, the ability to subordinate an impulse to a value is the essence of a proactive person. It is our choices that decide what we become far more than our abilities. If we were to examine the lives of great men, their first victory, their one was over themselves. This great man, through constant self discipline and self control, they developed greatness of character. Self discipline has been compared to a muscle. The more we exercise it, the stronger it gets. It has also been compared to an act of cultivation, wherein it requires us to connect today's actions with tomorrow's results. There is a season of sowing and a season of reaping. Self discipline helps us know which is which. Discipline is remembering what we want and forcing ourselves to do something, in spite of how we feel, over and over until it becomes a habit. Self discipline is about controlling our desires and impulses. Self discipline is the bridge between goals and achievements. A famous quote reads, rule your mind or it will rule you. We must remember that the road of self discipline might appear hard, but the results are priceless. We all have a dream to attain moksha, but in order to make this dream a reality, we must cultivate Sanyam through tremendous determination, dedication, self discipline, and effort. Brahmacharya. Brahmacharya refers to chastity, or in broader sense refers to non-indulgence of all sensual pleasures. The human birth is meant for a life of spiritual communion with God. However, we have degraded ourselves greatly by becoming puppets of passion. A touching quote states that pure chastity is beauty to our souls, grace to our bodies, and peace to our desires. The first step is to reign over our senses. Abstinence is the cornerstone upon which the pedestal of moksha stands. The scriptures states that with brahmacharya and penance, Mahatmas have conquered death. How did Lord Hanuman become the strongest warrior? The rishis of yore knew fully well of the values of brahmacharya, and that is the reason why they sung in beautiful verses about the glories of brahmacharya. Even the Bhagavad Gita states, O Arjuna, triple is the gate of hell, destructive of the self, lust, wrath, and greed. Therefore, renounce these three. Kill this powerful enemy, passion, by the observance of brahmacharya. Just as a fox hides itself in a bush, so also this lust hides itself in the corner of the mind. We can detect its presence only if we are vigilant. Just as a machine gun is necessary to kill a powerful enemy, similarly, constant, rigorous, powerful sadhana is necessary to annihilate the powerful enemy called lust. Practice of yati dharma or brahmacharya is the best defense that we can put forward in our battle against passions, delusions, and craving of senses. Shoch. The word soch depicts piousness. To experience super bliss, one must be pure in mind and body. Once we withdraw ourselves from all activities that hold sway over our sense, all the physical and mental energy that holds sway our sense, all physical and mental energy that we possess should be used to develop piety. Piety is a state where one would be able to remain unaffected by people, objects, words, and circumstances that surround him. One must constantly endeavor to keep his vows untarnished by keeping an eye on faults of or transgression, atichars, however. If at all he makes mistake in his vows, he has to be careful enough to confess his sins to a learned guru and purify his vows through prayaschit. While the outer world gives great importance to physical purity, mental purity or shoch is of utmost importance in the inner spiritual world. By practicing this yati dharma, one must aim to develop an equanimity of mind that is not stirred by circumstances, good or bad. For instance, getting agitated by emotions of love or hate means that one's pure state of mind is spoiled. The best way to develop piety is to refrain from all negative thoughts, negative ideas, negative opinions, and drive the mind towards positive ones that are in accordance with the scriptures. Paramatma has preached for us to develop a detached inner disposition through the yati dharmas of Shoch. Just as a lotus leaf remains aloof and untouched by the mud it grows in, similarly, we must keep our mind unaffected by toxic thoughts and emotions that hamper our spiritual growth. Once decluttered physically and mentally, we shall only be able to revel in the beauty with which Paramatma has proclaimed his dharma. Tapasya. Tapasya refers to victory over desires. The scriptures have shed light on 12 different practices that help us uproot the seeds of desires deeply embedded within us. We will discuss these 12 different practices in our video on Nirjara Bhavana. It is well-known fact to the enlightened and thinking minds that all suffering originates from craving, from attachment, and from desires. It is said, desire less, suffer less. The core of Sri Tirthankar Paramatma's teachings states that the attachment, rag, to which is desirable and the aversion, dvesh, to that which is undesirable is the root cause of all suffering. In fact, the word arihant itself means destroyer of attachment and aversion. Even the Arihantas attain the title of Tirthankaras and revel in the true bliss only after they win over Rag and Dvesh. Further, the purpose of all religious spiritual activities in reality is none other than to gain victory over these twin passions. If we too wish to liberate our souls from the shackles of sansar, we need to become aware of the poisonous nature of desire and attachment, and slowly but steadily work towards cultivating vairagya or detachment. And this in itself is the very essence of tapasya. Non attachment or detachment means not being enslaved by anything and to live like a lotus in the marshes without being touched or polluted by it. It is living free from the encumbrances of life and the various distractions it has to offer, not by passively running away from them, but by actively developing equanimity and self awareness. Attachment means holding on to things dearly because we feel we cannot live without them, or as if our very happiness and existence depends on it. There are mental bonds we develop with things we believe are important for our happiness. They are invisible strings that tie us to the external world and its myriad attractions. These mental bonds blind us and limit our vision, knowledge, and awareness. These mental bonds determine our actions, reactions, and inactions, our joys and sorrows, our successes and failures. When we become attached to things, they take control of our life, our body, our mind, and senses, define our thoughts, words, and actions. Attachment shapes our personality and our destiny. Attachment leads to endless samsaric existence. From attachment arise desires, and from desires comes delusion. Delusion causes confusion and ultimately leads to loss of discrimination. Lacking sound discrimination, we lose the ability to choose wisely, which results in binding of karma and an endless samsaric existence. Our attachment results in our cravings, and our cravings lead to suffering as we exist in a constant state of desperation and discontentment. Identifying our attachments is the first step towards an unfettered life of peace and stability. With some practices, we can become aware of our dominant attachments and in the process learn how to deal with them and become free from them. According to the scriptures, it is not merely sensory objects or our actions that result in accumulation of karma. What binds karma is our attachments to these objects. Nirjara Bhavna, we shall discuss in brief now. Consequently, fill our lives with unparalleled peace. We must awaken to the truth that fulfillment of desire does not equal to happiness, but the absence of desire this definitely equates to true and long lasting happiness. In fact, fulfillment of desire only adds fuel to the already burning fire of desire within us. Let us try to practice whatever little of the 10 Yati Dharmas we can into our lives and work towards liberating our souls from the choking grip of attachment, desire, and delusion. The ninth Nirjara Bhavna, which we shall discuss in brief now, is reflections on the shedding of karmas. Nirjara Bhavna is to contemplate that acting with knowledge is the cause of shedding karmas. Nirjara means to shed. Nirjara Bhavna tells us about our ability to shed karmas that have not yet come into play. Nirjara is of two kinds: Sakam, active, and Akam, passive. Akam Nirjara is unconscious shedding of karmas, such as after we experience it. Sakam Nirjara is when we engage in ways to shed our karmas even before they affect us. As living beings, we constantly attract karma. Karmas fall into 8 categories, 4 of which shroud our soul and inhibit our chances of self realization. These are Gnana Varniya, knowledge obscuring, Darshana Varniya, perception obscuring, Antraya, obstructing, and Mohaniya, deluding. The first, that is Gnana-Varniya, shrouds our ability to get the right knowledge. The second, that is Darshana-Varniya, shrouds our ability to perceive the soul as it is. The third Antraya thwarts our ability to engage in spiritual and religious practices. While the last and the most harmful of all, Mohaniya, sucks us into the web of Moha or delusionary beliefs, Darshan Mohaniya, and conduct, Charitra Mohaniya. Nijara Bhavna offers reparation for past karmas, and also we can contain karmas even before they are manifested. Jain scriptures mention 12 types of external and internal penance: fasting, eating less, containing the senses, abandoning taste, and shrinking one's use of special objects such as bed or chairs and taxing the body. And the internal means include repenting for past sins, serving other people, study, humility and reverence, contemplation and meditation. Nirjara Bhavana is the way to shed the karmas while they are latent, that is, before they are forced upon us. A karma can be experienced by us, either partly or fully. Till the karma is not fully manifested, we can change the potency and force, shed the latent portion by these spiritual practices. Our soul has that power. The only karmas that we cannot shake or shed before they manifest are nikachit karmas. Nikachit karmas are those karmas that we accumulate with deep involvement and thereby make them most sticky to shed. Nikachit karmas cannot be preemptively shed, they scatter only after we go through them. Our Param Pujya scholar says, an enlightened person welcomes his bad karma with joy. This is because he knows he will be rid of these karmas once they are experienced and he will be free. He does not mop when a bad karma surfaces. He responds with equanimity to the good karma as well. His detachment in the face of all karmas as a gnata drashta, knower and observer, ensures that he does not accumulate any more karmas as a consequence. He abstains from the further entwining himself in the karmic web. We need to internalize this sentiment and apply it in our lives as on a daily basis. Constant introspection, contemplation, and vigil will keep us from slipping into the lethal karmic web. Introspection yields us knowledge about our essential narrow mindedness. The way we see everything from our point of view and consider our desire before accommodating that of others. It makes us realize that our attachment to people is also selfish. The moment we separate attachment from them, we can see them and deal with them as they are. This separation of attachment is a sticky goal that can be facilitated by contemplation and meditation. Meditation has the power to shed our karmas effortlessly. Meditation is also the elixir for a detachment and self awareness. Contemplation turbo powers our journey to self enlightenment. As said by our Guruji, just as a coconut kernel remains separate from its shell, we remain separate from all that is around us. Bhagwan Mahavir lived in the lap of luxury for 30 years, but he was immune to it. After his Diksha renunciation, he faced countless hardships and adversities, but he remained resolutely equanimous, sambhavi, without leaning into the slightest towards rag, attachment, or dvesh, aversion. When we ponder over such inspirational stories, we shed our karmas. Param Pujya Dev Srimad Rajchandra was another epitome of Vairagya, detachment. Srimad ji faced worldly ups and downs without even getting phased or involved. An enlightened soul sheds innumerable karmas even while he is engaged in worldly activities, while an unenlightened soul may end up attracting more karma even while trying to shed the old ones. For instance, one may chant a mantra 108 times to shed karma, but the moment he feels proud of his spiritual activity, he slips into another karmic bond. Constant vigil is the price of freedom from karma. Param Pujya Guruji says, we have everything we need: inclination from salvation, desire for satsang, a powerful meditation method, but we often falter because of pramad, indiscipline, and love for our worldly existence. Srimad Rajchandra says in Vachamrit, knowledgeable seers say that man becomes God. This is profound statement. This simple sounding sentence conceptually covers all the literature on spirituality written by Srimadji. Man will, with all compelling flaws, has the potential to overcome them and evolve into a Gnani, one who knows the soul. We can then move up step by step across various stages of Gunasthanaks towards Keval Gnan, where all distinctions between him and God ends. Our nature is made up of some qualities that we are born with and some that we acquire. All these qualities are the cause of our accumulation of karma. If we think deeply about the nature of our being, we realize that we need nothing to make us happy. Happiness dwells within us, waiting to be acknowledged. Once we realize that, we change internally and gradually stop attracting karmas. All that then remains in shedding of past karmas, which can be done more easily and quickly with the help of contemplation and meditation. That's the time tested passage to salvation.